I'd like to share a passage from my book, Through a Glass Darkly, Losing Religion and Rediscovering the Sacred. For me, it was time to begin educating myself, to discover what existed outside the Christian world I had always inhabited. In truth, I had already begun that process years earlier. I attended a liberal arts college as an English major where I studied literature, philosophy, and religion from many traditions. But at that time, much of what I learned didn't fully sink in. For the first time in my life, I began questioning the foundational beliefs I had always taken for granted. One of those beliefs was the doctrine of hell. In the Christian culture I grew up in, we were taught from an early age that God would send us to hell if we did not believe the correct things about Him. According to this theology, our moral behavior didn't matter nearly as much as our belief. We were born sinners, filthy and undeserving, and unless we accepted a very specific theological narrative, we would spend eternity in a place of fire and torment. I began to realize that I couldn't believe this anymore. Not because I wanted to rebel, but because it simply no longer made any sense. I am the father of 3 sons, and like all children, they made mistakes as they grew up. But I cannot imagine any circumstances in which I would abandon them or condemn them forever to eternal punishment. My love for them is unconditional. If that is true of me, an imperfect human father, how could a heavenly father be less compassionate? The more I thought about it, the more the traditional concept of hell seemed impossible. What I began to realize instead was that heaven and hell were not necessarily distant places waiting for us after death. They were conditions of the human heart. Heaven could exist on earth. Hell could exist on earth. I had experienced both of them. During my divorce, it felt like hell on earth. The despair, the loneliness, the anger, they were all so overwhelming. But over time, something inside me changed. Something shifted. My circumstances didn't change. My marriage didn't magically heal. My life simply began to look different because my mind began to look at the world differently. Hell is simply a state of being. I began to understand something that William Shakespeare expressed beautifully in Hamlet. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That insight changed everything for me. Slowly, I began to see the sacred everywhere.